So Althea, I know that you are here in Zoom. Would you like to add some value on that question that came from Stephen? Can you turn on your camera and unmute yourself, Althea? It'd be really nice
Yes.
if you can add
Hi.
some value to Stephen's question. How should we deal with data privacy issues in digital lending?
Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. Yes, data privacy, super complex topic, but I honestly feel that we're just at the beginnings of being comfortable managing it, because it's something that, you know, at the end of the day, you need to have a certain amount of empathy as an organization to get your organization in the right headspace in order to put yourself in the position of the customer. And for example, I had the privilege of serving on a data ethics board, actually the very first data ethics board for the ING Bank. At the time, ING was the 23rd largest bank in the world. And there was a data ethics council. And we gave counsel internally as a data team, but collective multidisciplinary team to various different organizations in the bank that were interfacing with customers and getting into the really gray area of, you know, what's the difference between intrusive, intrusive, for example, knowing something about the customer, but even though it's legal, is this ethical? And then also illegal, I mean, in terms of regular legal plus privacy legal, is it ethical? And there's no clear-cut answer. It's really, the advice is organizations need to put their energy where their mouth is and do the hard work. Every single incident, every single type of event, and not just rely on a structure of, we put something for privacy in place, you just tick the boxes and you're done, because the world is much more complicated than that. So, you know, putting together a data/AI ethics board, committee, or even some think tanks on it is a very good place to start, because that's where you get people in the bank or in, you know, the facilitating of banking products and services, really talking and thinking and empathizing with, you know, the customer's perspective, and not trying to purposely push the gray lines further. So that's my advice. There's no clear answer. You need to do the work. Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Althea. Raj, any final closing remarks, a key message you want to give to the audience based on the presentation?
I think we all need to look beyond the conventional way of doing businesses. And let's not look at, as I said, I mean, any product can be digitized, but only when, if you follow all the rules and, you know, all the risk metrics, and if you can fulfill every criteria. And I think we all need to work on that. Enough technology and enough use cases are available today. And I think we can use that and come with a digital lending products. I mean, this is all for the industry. This is all for the customers.
Raj, thank you very much. I've been doing a lot of alt tab to see if there's any other question on the platform. But okay. Raj, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time. It's been indeed a privilege. We'll see you soon again for the North Africa edition in the month of October. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Raj Singh for you from Fin Africa and Finova 360. We would love to hear a round of applause for his presentation.
Thank you.
It was really spectacular. Thank you, Raj. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please, I'd like to remind all of you, later on today at 5:30 p.m. Nigerian time, we have a fireside chat with the Honorable Director General of the National Identity Management Commission, Engineer Aziz. That session will be led by Mrs. Althea Davis later on this evening. But right now, I'm calling back Mrs. Althea Davis to moderate the DX panel, DX, Digital Experience, Digital Transformation, the Digital Leaders panel. And the panel is all about innovative digital strategies and new technologies that are driving access to financial services. And I would like to call back from yesterday, Prenton Naiker, Regional Sales Manager for Sub-Saharan Africa at Smart Message, the gold sponsor. And with him, we have a nice dear old friend, Francis Cyrus, the sales lead for Africa at Freshworks. Again, our gold sponsor. We have Mrs. Desola Ilori, the head of retail solutions and platforms at Union Bank of Nigeria. Peter Daniels also joins us as the head of digital banking at Polaris Bank Limited. A nice, good old friend who's been part of our of the Africa Bank 4.0 Summit since its inception. Mr. Dennis Izaga, head of digital innovation for business banking at First City Monument Bank in Nigeria. From Congo, we have Jan Kabungo, the head of mobile and digital business for Finca at the DRC. And another nice gentleman, a nice friend from Zimbabwe, who is also representing Digital Finance Practitioners Association of Zimbabwe, one of the events supporting association, and has been part of the, that has actually been supporting the event since the last couple of editions, since the second edition. Gerald Nyakwawa, the Chief Association Executive for the DFPA of Zimbabwe. Ladies and gentlemen, please turn on your camera and you may unmute yourself when given the opportunity to speak. We would love to take a selfie of all of you with your cameras on the main platform. And Althea, I would like to pass on the session to you. The next 1 hour belongs to this panel. Take it away, Althea.
Okay, thank you so much, Fad. We are going to have an exciting conversation with so many accomplished people, and I'm sure so many diverse and interesting viewpoints. So welcome everybody to today's panel. Of course, today we are speaking about innovative digital strategies and new technologies that are driving access to financial services. And I think in light of where everybody is right now in the world, access to financial services is pretty critical. So I'm very curious and really encouraging all of you to push the envelope and, you know, tell us the truth of it and your very strong opinions. I'm just going to read a little short intro and then we're going to start into the questions, everybody. Welcome. So emerging technologies and government programs have been able to increase access to finance to achieve a progression in the financial inclusion. In this session, you will get a clear view on the right tactics to consider in making your digital strategy on access to finance to hit a home run. Digital and innovation strategy experts, 7 of you, are going to join me and give your very keen and valid insights on the next 7 questions. And there are 7 of you, there are 7 questions. We have a full hour. So I'm just going to throw the questions out and everybody can choose what they would like to answer. And of course, those of you that also have an opinion and would like to get a moment in, please just raise your hand and we will get to you. Okay? Thank you. Thank you, everybody, and welcome to the panel. So I'll start with the first question. In your opinion, what initiatives have narrowed gaps in the financial inclusion segment? Who would like to pick up that first question and start us off? Everybody's going to wait. Francis, I see you smiling. I think I've got a winner. Francis, I see Gerald smiling as well. Who would like to start?
I'll go with one. Hi everyone, I'm Francis. I've been in the industry, particularly in the BFSI space, selling different software solutions from Freshworks. So what I see is a key strategy is enhancing the reach or making sure that it's very simple for your customers in reaching out to you, or in simple words, setting up a very friendly help desk solution, right? A help desk
Mm,
at least, right? So that has been a very key strategy in filling the
mhm.
gaps with all the changing trends, with all the digitization. One thing that has become very key is how accessible are you to your customers, right?
Right.
That is one very important aspect to have a better customer experience. So
Mhm.
I would like to start my thought with this. How
Okay.
accessible are you
Right.
in the BFSI segment to your customers?
Right. So simple kind of gives you a lot of points for being accessible. Okay. I think
Yeah,
the Gerald, oh,
Althea,
sorry.
I'd like to add to that. So
Mhm.
it's not about how you can reach the customer anymore. It's about how the customer can reach you. So they will decide on the channel that they would like to engage with you on. So
Mhm.
previously, you only had the single mandate of having them come into a branch. That was the only option.
Right.
But now, because of all the digitalization, apps, etc., they would
Mhm.
decide how to move forward. We've even had customers in Africa ask, if we can engage with you using USSD, especially
Mhm.
to people that can't afford things like data,
Right.
SMS, etc.
Right.
So, as Smart Message, we can help with those kinds of solutions, but it's all about how does the customer want to engage with you.
Right. So
Yeah.
this point about there's a notion of banking 4.0 that
Yeah.
you need to be a kind of financial mentor, a servant mentor, kind of a servant in the sense of the banks, or let's say the financial institutions, they know about finance, they know about it. So instead of kind of keeping people out by making the walls very high, uh,
Yeah.
bringing a bit of, let's say, education in a respectful way to the clients is one part of it. And the other part of it is, instead of listening to your clients, stop listening, actually observe what they're doing. So like you just
Sure.
said, if you know that they don't have access to different types of data products, then you observe what they do have access to, and then facilitate them that way. So what are your
Sure.
thoughts on that?
So it was surprising to me that people can engage with apps like TikTok and Snapchat to do commerce
Mhm.
transactions these days. So
Right.
what used to be a playtime app and
Yeah.
function has
Yeah.
yeah, has now turned into a commerce engine. So
Mhm.
I'm sure people were watching the behavior of their customers
Mhm.
on those apps and following influencers, etc., and saw that people that were viewing the video then went and purchased certain things. So
Right.
I agree with you that totally you've got to watch your customers, see how they engage, see how they
Mhm.
want to work with you, and
Mhm.
then allow them to do that.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Anybody else on this one?
Yeah. So something I wanted to add is in most of the time, as a financial institution, we always look at what is nice to do, from our perspective.
The
But by
path of
the end of the day,
yeah.
exactly. So what is interesting with digital financial services, mobile financial services, I think it's always to come up with a solution that
Mhm.
actually is a response to customer need.
Yeah.
And that's very important. So from our experience, just for you to know, in back in 2011, then
Mhm.
this is Finca DRC. So
Mhm.
we think of implementing an agent network because we had customers that has to spend almost $10 to reach the nearest branch
Right.
to make a deposit of $1. So
Mm.
you have someone who want to make a deposit of $1 at your bank, but he has to spend
That
almost $10.
doesn't make yeah, that doesn't make
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. So we came up with this initiative of implementing, an agent network that
Mhm.
was using card-based transactions.
Right.
But what happened so far was that, we just found that the card was not working for these customers. But still, the idea of having the agent network was good.
Yeah.
But the way it was implemented that time, it was not switchable to customers. So what we did after 2 years was to get rid of cards.
Yeah.
And we implemented biometric, whereby customer
Biometric.
has just to authenticate and validate transaction using the biometric.
Excellent.
I think by the end of the day, that experience, in terms of lesson learned, is that you always have to be on the side of the customers,
Right.
to come up with something that make really, really sense for the customers.
Absolutely. And I love that story because, some people would have looked at that, let's say previously, especially in financial institutions, they were not learning organizations. It was their way or the highway. And what you said is brilliant. You came up with something that did address the path of least resistance from the customer's perspective with one little extra change. So you recognized it, you got the feedback, and you did something about it. That is very much about failing fast and, seeing it from the customer's perspective. It's just brilliant. It's really brilliant. So now we talked about people in the country that had to come for so far. I think this is a great lead up to the second question for the group. My second question to all of you is, what are the best practices to deal with the rural and the poorest of the poor customer segment to deliver a wow digital experience or just delight them? Who would like to take a stab at that one?
Can I take that? I think from what has been said before, I would like to agree with all the speakers before to say it's mostly how do the customers reach you as a financial service provider. So when you look at it, sometimes you really need to understand what it is that your customers want.
Yes.
So it's more like a customer journey mapping exercise where you put yourself in the shoes of the customer. What is it exactly that is the problem? So that when you then come up with a solution, you know exactly what the customer wants. Because half the time, like you said, it was always the bank's way or the highway. But now, if you do that, you're probably going to be left with just a minimal number of customers because you're not responding to their problems. So when I then look at the customers that we want to be in the financial services, we're looking at those the billion that are not using that are not accessing financial services. What is it that we can do? That's why I agree with Britain that we really need to be looking at ways like USSD, your WhatsApp banking, all the social media apps, then come up with a profile of a customer and then give them a solution. So I think in the last research that I did with Comesa recently, we discovered that in as much as people were going to the market to get information about the market, now they actually prefer to get that information on their phones. Whether it's a smartphone, it's a basic phone, or it's a feature phone, they really need to have access to their markets on their phones.
On their phones. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Anybody else on this question?
Hi. Okay.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Ladies first. Ladies first.
My name is Deshala, and I work with the Union Bank. And so at Union Bank, right, we always tag ourselves as the bank of the 99. We're one of the oldest banks, if not the oldest bank in Nigeria. So what has now happened? What that means is that we are in states and towns where we're probably the only bank. And then yes, exactly. So then you have this challenge, as he said, of somebody spending so much or having to leave whatever they're doing to get to the nearest bank or towns. So what and in line with what everybody has said is what we've implemented was agency banking. So we have super agents, we have smaller agents that fit into the super agent platform. And so what we've also seen is that there's a need for trust as well. So at the poorest, in those rural areas, I mean, not a lot of people have access to smartphones. So yes, the SD is very important. And even those that are not on, those that have are not on like the Facebooks. So WhatsApp is really big for us, as well as SMS, just push notification, just trying to explain to them, this is how you get your work done. And also in one other thing we are also looking at is how do we then bank people that are not already in the system. Yeah, so there's of course being an agent, if you need money, you bring your card, or they do a transfer to you, or they'll give you cash. But how do we then do those transactions and also get these customers so we can get them integrated? So one thing
into the system. Yeah.
Into the system is so that's what so right now I think we're working on that in the sense of getting like, so we have this sort of, it's a tablet that allows you to also register. So like you said, as opposed to bringing a card, you can just register, open an account, and from there they can then verify your details and you can do your transactions seamlessly. So if you don't have a card, you can still do transactions because we have visibility of
to bring it to you.
Yes, as a customer. And most important is they can move around, so it's not a brick and mortar.
So they flex.
It's accessibility, access to the people, not the people coming to you, but how do you then get to the people to help solve their problem?
Yeah, so you go to the people wherever they are. And because you said you're one of the oldest bank in Nigeria, you have a lot more brick and mortar locations to have your flexible, physical network of people to get agents to get to all of the people.
Yes, but even with the so we all know that branches are becoming obsolete. So we're working on shutting down those obsolete branches and then having like an agency set up. So it's a smaller kiosk sort of thing whereby it's easy to reach, and where we have one branch, we can then have 3 or 4 in that area spread out. So as opposed to you going to towns away to find an agent, it's not in your town, it's in the next town.
Right, the kiosk network, or like an ecosystem, so you're much more accessible to people in the communities. Very interesting. But this topic about, the unbanked, anybody else want? I thought somebody else was trying to get a word in when I said ladies first. Was it Jean?
Yeah, that's Jean. Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Sorry, Jean.
Thank you.
Sorry, Jean.
Yeah, that's okay. Oh, no, it's okay. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
So, in terms of best practices, I think it's not about, always looking at how you can reinvent the wheel. It's not about how you can reinvent the wheel, because most of the things exist in this world. Even you don't have something that has been rolled out in your own country, but at least you can look at the experience from other countries and learn about that experience and try to come up with something. So, the question is, how do you do to always question yourself in terms of your product offer, your channel offer, and how do you do to always question your market? When I'm talking about the market, I'm looking at the customers.
Yes.
When questioning yourself and questioning the market, really that will lead you to understand what do you want, what do you have to come up with in order to respond to the market need. And that's where the customization is really a very key element in terms of best practices, because the USSD exists, mobile apps, they exist, all those things exist, but how do you do to implement them by taking in consideration your own realities, your market, needs, etc., etc. And one of the experience I want to share here is about the agent banking, right? So
yes,
we implement the agent banking, and we were allowing customers from the agent location to do cash in, cash out, and do also other transactions. But we start getting some of the customers, the non-customers coming to the agent and say, hey, I can see Fintech Express here. How do I do to use your Fintech Express? And we say, okay, you need to go to the nearest branch, open the account. But still, coming back to what I was saying previously, this guy has to spend X dollars or Y dollars to go and reach the nearest branch. So then the question comes on, what can you bring in this market, in that specific location, which will allow the customer or the non-customers, when they get interested on you, what can they do instantly to become your customers, to start doing or benefiting from that service? So
that's what counts.
I mean, exactly. That's what is.
Yeah. So it could be new. I always say also with data, we are data designers, we're data artisans. It's about getting it done. And it could be anything, right?
Exactly,
so
exactly.
I just want to have your peer panelists, I'll give them a couple of words in. I see Peter with his hand up, Peter Daniels and Gerald. So first we'll start with Peter. Peter, welcome to the discussion. Oh, I can.
All right.
Okay.
All
hello.
right. Thank you, David. I think.
Oh.
Right, thank you. So I think importantly is community.
I'm sorry, Peter.
I mean, importantly is understanding the context.
Oops. I'm sorry, Peter. We can't hear you. I think you have your mic off. You're muted. Oh, you're back. Hi, hello.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Okay, great. So I said, importantly, the first thing is to try to understand the context of the customers, which boils down to the community in focus, where the customer cluster is. And the approaches could be either direct or indirect, meaning direct in terms of acquiring those customers directly by bringing them into the financial ecosystem, or leveraging on existing value chain within that community to be able to bring them within the banking space. Right. Then doing that also brings about other strategies. So when it is indirect, then it means you have to open up as a bank, which comes to the bank 3.0, 4.0, where you have embedded banking within existing value chain. And which also connects to what Jean said a few minutes ago around working with without having to reinvent the wheel. So what the customers in those community are used to is actually what should be leveraged how to bring them within the financial ecosystem. And that should be a very strong objective within banking your bank. Otherwise, there'll be a lot of efforts and money spent on trying to onboard those customers and getting them active within the financial sector. Then in going direct also means that we need to know our best. It has to be tailored and has to be driven by the understanding of that community, which varies from community to community and also from country to country. So there is no one unilateral way to do it, but the approach has to be contextualized, and it has to be a two-pronged approach of direct and indirect to be able to achieve that objective. That's actually what I'm making now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Peter. Gerald, I'll give you a quick comment on this so we can get to question 3. So go ahead, Gerald.
It's just a small one. I just had a light bulb moment when Jean was speaking.
Yes.
So we once when I was at my former employer, we really wanted to get the group savings onto the digital platforms. So our main concern was, how do we get the lockbox out of the way, and how do we get the deposits into the banking system? But we came up with a brilliant solution where you could actually then have authorizers on the phone, even it's USSD or on the app. But what we then missed is when people are in savings groups, there is a social aspect of the savings where they actually meet under a tree, they have their social discussions, and they start saving. So in as much as we really wanted the savings to then come into the system, it didn't take off the way we thought it would, because we didn't realize that there is a social aspect of savings groups. So of course, I'm sure they're working on a better solution where we are adding the savings plus the social aspect, maybe add it to WhatsApp or another chat platform, so that at least maybe it can take off. But I think these are the things that we really then need to understand when you're dealing with our customers.
Definitely. That's a very, very good point. And that's a very good point to highlight what Peter was saying about context. Absolutely. So team, we're moving on. Question number 3. What technologies have supported these initiatives and how have they helped building the economy? So all of the things we've been discussing, the different types of technologies, the different types of methods, even with the network agents, how, what technologies have been supporting all of this? I think somebody alluded to an iPad, but please go ahead.
All right, so should I take that, Davis?
Fine, yes, please do. Go ahead.
All right, great. So I think regards that, what I've seen that's pretty much been very successful is the USSD.
Mm-hmm.
And the essence of that is a technology that can be embedded in apps beyond the fact that it's accessible via the phone app. So basic phone that is not smart can run easily on them. Smartphones as well accommodated as well. Then in addition to that, apart from USSD, it's actually the open banking. And what that's done is enabled to the technology-driven institutions that also play within financial space to be able to leverage on the banking services to be able to bring in the unbanked. So using USSD as a reachable technology to the end user and utilizing APIs to be able to provide those services. And that brings about those auxiliary or VAS services that you see happen within the agent, within the unbanked, which goes beyond the cash in, cash out, which is depositing money in a withdrawal, to actually accessing other services like health, pension, paying bills, and also merchant payments as well. So those two actually became very prominent. And with the APIs brings about the smart world where apps and offline apps are also built, where you have, but not just only the USSD, you have the USSD, you have the online web apps, all that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Peter. We also have some questions in from the audience. So we're going to take that one first, and then we'll go to one of the panelists who wants to also answer this, this question. If you would allow me, we have a question from Peter Iwigbu from the audience. What layers of security is required to assure the customer of their safety? This is really affecting confidence and fast adoption of digital platforms. Who would like to take that question? I could repeat it.
Yes, please repeat.
Yes, please. Sure. Sure. The question from the audience is, what layers of security is required to assure the customer of their safety? This is really affecting confidence and fast adoption of digital platforms.
Also, I'm gonna take it. Maybe some of the colleagues will also come up with other insight. I think one of the key elements could be, how do you design your strategy to build trust trust on your technology.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you do to actually make sure that your customers are enough educated to use your technology?
Right.
I think those two questions are key in the sense that if your customers will reach the point where they trust into your technology, into something that you've implemented, that will make them confident to use it. And second thing, that if you are really having a clear strategy on how you educate your customers to properly use your technology, that will again on something that you've implemented. So those are the key two things that I wanted to highlight regarding this question.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jean. I want to move on to Francis and then Dennis. So Francis, you wanted to...
Yeah, with regards to the technology that is helping, with this gap right now, I would also want to call out AI or chatbots that are deflecting all the entry-level questions so that it doesn't, make the job of, the frontline support agents very, clunky. Right now, whenever there is a surge in customer inquiries,
Right.
the first line L1 customer support people are really tossed, and to minimize that, the AI technology or the chatbot is definitely deflecting a lot of frequently asked questions, might be,
right,
or at least directing the customers to the right channel. So I think as a technology wise, AI chatbots are helping us a lot, in situations like this particularly.
Sure. Thank you so much, Francis. And then Dennis, please. Welcome to the discussion.
Okay, thank you, Altia. Let me just speak to the concern around security. So the last two speakers spoke very well. I just wanted to look at it from the perspective of really customers need to be comfortable. In fact, trust is really key.
Trust.
So security at two levels: security at transaction initiation level, which most times would be a mobile phone, and security at the backend services, which will be server-based. So at the mobile phone level, you want to institute things like authentication, maybe a two-factor authentication. If you are able to use a mobile phone and not USSD, then I would suggest including biometrics, so that the phone biometrics can be one of the factors of authentication. If it's USSD, you can put in two factors, build into a two-factor layer, so that at that point of security, the user feels more comfortable.
Right.
At the back-end security, that's really an enterprise strategy. Most systems are going to cloud. When you put your systems on the cloud, there are other security, there are a number of security measures you can put in place, which I will not bother to go into now. But suffice to say that when you have that front-end, back-end strategy that speaks to itself and syncs properly, users can, over time, come to trust your solution and play. But I really wanted to speak to, and I can see there's some interconnection between question 2 and question 3. But I really wanted to speak to something that our bank has done, and I know quite a number of banks have done it.
Sure.
So it starts with, so it's solar energy intervention.
Okay.
We have a lot of sunlight in Africa.
Right.
So the background to that is when you go into rural communities, farming communities, you find that the farmers plant crops, harvest them, but there's a challenge with the storage. Because you find that rather very high percentage of the crops that they harvest spoil, so they can neither sell them nor store them to sell much later. So incomes, or at this point you bring in the solar energy systems, and we find that we can partner with these providers who can bring in mini grids into such communities. So it's self-sustaining, it's completely enclosed, And guess what? For the farmer to charge his solar appliance, he needs to register. USSD comes into play. And then he needs to have a wallet. Financial inclusion is beginning to come into play. You know, so because he needs to top up his solar energy credits, and as he makes sales, he can also use the same financial wallet. And in Nigeria, we have a tiered system for consumer banking. So you can do a tier 1 account, which really does not require all the KYC in the world. So your phone number would typically suffice for that. Do the account amount thresholds, but you can start with that. When you go to tier 2, you want to get
it's a little bit more complicated.
Exactly. But not as complicated as the full KYC that the bank account will require. You know, so this has been an innovative way to bring, whilst meeting customers' needs, to begin to bring them into financial services. Exactly, and I just wanted to be able to throw that in.
That's an excellent. Actually, you kind of answered part of question 4, not the shortfall, but the success stories. And considering the time and the great discussion, we've got 15 more minutes. I would really like to give everybody a chance to answer some of the other questions. So I'm going to move on to question 5. If anybody feels like throwing in a story while they're answering, please be my guest. But question 5, we're talking about what are the key components to build a successful digital strategy that meets the quest towards access of finance. Who would like to start us off on that one?
May I go?
Everybody's quiet. Sorry. Jean,
Jean,
you can go ahead. Go ahead.
I think one of the thing that is really very important is the infrastructure. It is about the infrastructure. You know, just trying to talk a bit about Congo. You know, Congo is a very huge country, one of the biggest in Africa, with 80 million population, and 55% of this population are young. Only 50% of the country is covered by the mobile network operator. So which means that we have half of the country that is not covered by them. By the end of the day, I mean, the question is, of course, we might concentrate on the 50% that have coverage of the mobile network operator, but what would happen with the rest of the country? While we know that almost 65% of the population are living in the rural area.
It's
so
very contextual, like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, exactly. So it's very important to look at the infrastructure, which goes beyond, you know, the mobile network operator, you know, which goes also beyond, you know, any financial service provider, and this involve, you know, at the country level, the government to take some of the measures and try to come up with some strategy to, you know, to overcome this issue. And something I really want to emphasize here is the adaptability of your technology. Yeah. So you need to have a technology that can actually get to be interconnected to others easily. You know, someone has been talking about APIs. You know, you really have to make sure that anything that you are coming with has that ability to integrate with others. And for Sense, we've used, you know, we had a core banking system that was not able to integrate with other parties, and we did some upgrades of this core banking system, and it has now the ability to integrate with the mobile operator. As a microfinance institution, one of the objectives that we had was to tap into the mobile money customers. We know in this country, mobile money, they're having million customers. And us as a microfinance institutions, we've been in this market for over 15 years, but we've never reached even 500,000 customers. So how do we do to use the technology actually to tap into million customers for financial inclusion? So we've kind of implemented something in Congo with M-Pesa, Vodacom M-Pesa, whereby we allowed any M-Pesa user to automatically from the USSD M-Pesa menu to open the account for us. That account is directly linked to the mobile money accounts. They can move money in and out, and they can also borrow. We are providing small loans of $50, $100, and maximum is $250. We are still at a very small scale, but we believe that with the big scale, we can actually reach to million customers, reach to $1 million of disbursement on the monthly basis and daily basis. And during the COVID, something that I want to share and I will end up from there is that we've seen that during the COVID, we've had more and more people moving money from their bank account to the mobile wallet and vice versa. Before the COVID, it was even less than $1 million. But with the COVID, we had an increase, and those customers were reaching up to $10 million on the monthly basis, just moving money in and out. So, the adaptability of your technology is also a very key element.
Yes, absolutely. Anybody else wanted to hone in on this question about what is a key component of building a successful digital strategy? No takers?
All right. So this is Peter here. I think, Peter.
Yes.
All right. So I think the most critical of this is the customer experience. And that's actually what drives whether it is digital or it is not digital. Is the experience that the customer gets that actually determines whether they stick with you or they are managing you and looking for a better alternative. So the experience is actually what differentiates. So you mentioned about microfinance banks, 15 years, mobile money operator, a year, and they actually have more customers. It's not the difference in time. It is first understanding the needs of that customer and meeting it at a point where that is fast, that is efficient, that is easily scalable for you as a provider. So as a bank or as a financial provider that is providing a digital service, it has to be scalable, it has to be timely, it has to be accessible, it has to be secure to actually bring about the trust the customer wants. And also in terms of the support, the customer has to know that you've got his back, not just his money or you just in the business of providing service. And with that, and also, so that's customer experience. Then also from a platform view, is actually the support. So beyond buying, there is the after sale. And that actually not just only applies to the tangibles, but also to the intangibles. So providing financial service, value-added service, complementing that also is the ease of support. So when customer runs into issues, do they have to call, do they have to spend their money to reach you, or they can reach you without having to spend their money? So those are critical factors that are important for both the provider of the platform and also important to also keep the customers. So then importantly also is beyond acquiring these customers. So you acquire customers in millions, but you have to retain them. So retain them also goes beyond just the customer experience that brought them in. So to retain them also requires intelligence, and those intelligence could be small data driven, big data driven, and artificial intelligence driven. So those small data driven in terms of the 80-20 Pareto principle, where you actually have 20% of actions having 80% of impact on the platform. So those are the important theories you actually take note. Then also in retaining them, then you begin to look at recognizing customers and actually rewarding them. So those are very important strategy beyond the engineering and the platform play when it comes to digital. And actually, digital actually makes it easy to actually go into the platform play where on your platform you can begin to do more services beyond your core. So if your core is offering financial services, then you amass a lot of customers. You can begin to provide non-financial services, growing the number of times, number of purchases and actions that customers perform on that platform. All right, really. So I'll allow my colleagues to also add. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Peter. So just to recap, the key components you said is the knowledge about the customer. And also you mentioned the component of data, you know, being able to get into the data to build that successful digital strategy. Gerald, you wanted to hone in on this question. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Audrey. I want to draw a tangent with Jean. I think his main issue was, he says that infrastructure should be part of the strategy, which I agree. But if you then look at some countries, I'm going country level now. You have a country that is almost 90% covered in area as well as in population. But in the same country, you would find that people are not even using the digital platforms that are available. Why? It's because probably as a country, you haven't even sat down and said these are objectives to go digital. You don't even have that radical shift in your minds as to say, now if you're going digital, this is what exactly that we need to do. So look, you have a country that is, like I said, 90% covered, but customers are not using digital platform. One, because of the cost. In Zimbabwe, for example, we have an interoperability guideline that is there, but people are still not able to transfer. If I say able, maybe people are not transferring their money using that platform because of the cost of using that platform. Yes, exactly. So the digital is there, but the costs are so high that customers cannot use it. So as we then talk about digital strategy, these are the things that we also then need to look at to say, what is the cost of using the platforms? Then thirdly, the other thing that I also then would want at a country level to look at is the issue to do with digital identities. For me, excuse me, that then becomes the primary level to say, if ever we're going to have a digital strategy, we need to understand and appreciation of every customer that we have. If I'm sending money from bank A to bank B or mobile money B, I should be able to, they should be able to recognize me and even to give me a name of the customer that I'm sending to. So this is not happening as much as we have the infrastructure, it's not happening as yet. So these are things that, including data, like Peter said, what are sources of data? We have the mobile money companies, they have their own set of data, which they think they own. They think they own the customers. Banks have their own data. And even the national register, they also have the data. But the challenge is, these are just pockets of data. So we really need to have a radical shift, get all those data sets together, and maybe come up with a national strategy on digital. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. It's a very, you know, you're speaking to the converted. As a chief data officer, I'm very much about getting the basic data foundation of data right. Otherwise, you can't do all the exotic, sexy stuff, right? So the other point that you mentioned in the country, which is very similar to companies, is the culture. It's not just a digital, it's a business model change. It's a organizational change. I think in terms of the time, we do need to move on to the next question. The sixth question is, what are the next sets of instant digital innovations for your customers to go cashless securely in West Africa? I understand we have also Zimbabwe represented, but let's just say Africa for right now. Who would like to have a stab at that? Instant digital innovations. Everybody's going to be shy.
Okay, so I can quickly put that in.
Okay.
For the instant digital innovations, I think that more or less speak to instant value to the customer in terms of the value within the financial ecosystem. And that's can speak to instant cash withdrawal. So without necessarily using a token. So there are withdrawal using fingerprints today. And in addition to that, I think some of the innovations expected will be innovations that are tokenless, innovations that doesn't require you to carry cards or carry token. So the customer in this case becomes the token. So wherever the customer is present, the token is present.
Right.
And that talks about the speaks to the biometric of the customer. So you have the facial recognition, where with your retina recognition, you can actually authorize transactions. So you can walk into a store by just checking out with your face, can look up with your retina, can look up your bank account, debit it with the same experience as Amazon Go. All right. So that's an experience that's expected to come to complement the growing e-commerce. Then, in addition to that, is also the voice. Yes, voice will most likely take a while, but with expected that with voice as well, you should be able to initiate transactions by merely talking to your phone or talking to a device or merely talking to a kiosk. So these are expected to actually penetrate into some of the lifestyles that we have today. So from marketplace to various communities, especially those that are more or less patronized by the middle class. Right? So that's actually where most of it actually gets created before it's expanded to the lower spectrum of the lower, the bottom of the pyramid. So largely, I'll allow my other colleagues to speak. So,
okay.
I would drop a note. I think one of the digital platform that was introduced less than a year, as like 3 months ago, called Vault. Actually the first within the Nigeria ecosystem to utilize facial recognition for you to perform sensitive operations on your accounts, for signing up on the platform, for performing PIN resets, performing password reset, and that's just an overview. So the same can actually be expanded to actually real transactions outside of the banking ecosystem. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I got a question in here, and I'm going to ask Francis and Sola to address this question. I'm going to read it out. How can banks deliver empathetic digital customer experiences to maintain a human touch? The emphasis is leading with emotional intelligence in digital banking. I'm going to ask the lady to start. Do you need me? Did you hear my question, Desola?
Sorry, can you just repeat it one more time?
Sure. So the question is, how can banks deliver empathetic digital customer experiences to maintain a human touch? The emphasis is leading with emotional intelligence in digital banking. What are your thoughts on that?
So I think in as much as we are going digital, there's still a place for human contact. And also I think how that is then merged is using the data. So what is the sort of feedback that you're getting? What are you doing with that? With the data, with the feedback that you're getting, how do you process it? So I run a platform at Union Bank, and we get feedback. So we're constantly looking for feedback from our customers. So if you have we see a complaint anywhere, we then address it. We also then do sporadic callbacks to ask customers, how are you doing? We noticed you did a transaction, this transaction failed. We're looking at the data, really analyzing the data. So on our app, if you log onto the app and we see you didn't complete your transaction, we're gonna get a call to say, oh, did you want to do something? What was the problem? How can we help you? We'll put you through. So we don't, so that is, so I think using the data and then having the human touch, because sometimes, especially in this part of the world, I think you just still need, people are still, they still want to be able to talk to someone or see someone and have someone then solve their problem. So, so that's how it is, at least in the banking sector. We are constantly collecting the data, seeing what our customers are doing, and then trying to get the feedback or being in communication with those customers to see what the problems are and then resolve it for them. So when you do that, you don't wait for it to go completely bad and then you now have to do damage control.
Great, thank you very much. And Francis, same question to you. What are your thoughts on that?
Sure thing. Going digital doesn't always mean implementing, a bot or removing the human touch from a customer. We are talking, or at least I'm talking about going digital, on both the sides, right? Both the customer end as well as internally. The moment you go digital internally, the moment you have data, like Desoli said, then obviously the empathy comes into place. An agent, before answering a query, if he knows about the customer, if he knows what the challenge could be, if he can address it at a right, at within a right stipulated time, that is what is more important, right? An agent, if he picks up the call and asks you, what do you want? That is not just the human touch that a customer wants. A customer wants, to someone, who knows him well, who can address his issue within a particular point in time. So I believe being digital, completely, being an omni-channel, organization, and digitizing completely your customer, support would improve your customer experience.
Got you. Thank you so much for that. Peter, if you wanted, you had your hand up. Was it to answer this question as well? Okay.
Yes. Okay, so to add to what they said, I think importantly to take to the next level is to preempt what customer problem or challenge is. And I'll put an example here. For example, on the platform I mentioned, Vault, if a customer locks his PIN, for example, instead of telling the customer to reset the PIN, it actually takes the customer to the PIN reset screen to actually unlock his PIN, to reset the PIN. You forgot, you've locked out yourself from your platform. It takes you to the screen where you actually unlock yourself. And that's actually the, what's it called? Knowing where the customer needs help and providing that help without actually having to talk to anybody. All right. So I think that's also an opportunity to actually also bring about that human touch. Then in addition to that also is, so I think pretty much that. So it's advancing it such that you necessarily don't have to interact with the platform to talk to anyone, but getting your problem solved right while you are within.
Okay, thank you very much. I have a question here for Dennis. Dennis, I have a question. It's how can AI and data analytics help digital banks bridge the SME credit gap in partnership with fintech collaborations?
Okay, interesting question. I was actually going to enjoy Peter Daniel's perspective. There's a lot that can happen there, but let's speak to this. So, so the question again, so how can AI help with access to credit for SMEs?
Yes, so digital banks bridge the SME credit gap in partnership with fintech collaborations. Yeah, so how can the digital bank bridge?
Okay, so first of all, banks, we need to partner with fintechs. I think that conversation is already sorted. It's settled. We need to partner with them. They are agile. They have less things to focus on. We have a myriad of things we're looking at. So I think the biggest, and FCM interestingly is already on that journey in our SME space. So what artificial intelligence helps you to do is, because when we are trying to lend to an SME customer, we always want to come up with a credit scoring for that customer. And so that's why we're asking you for so many things. We're asking you bring this, bring that. We're trying to check this because we want to be able to rate you and say, what's the probability that you would default or the probability that you would pay? Interestingly, that's at the end of the day, it's a mathematical, statistical calculation, if you will.
Right.
And imagine I have an AI who's able to help me do that. Of course, that's going to help me. I mean, there's a whole conversation about getting to develop the model, constantly train it so that it's able to deliver optimally. But let's look at the situation where it's delivering optimally. You'll be surprised that we would get to the point where we are not asking for as many documents as we're asking now.
Right.
Because the model is so trained and so advanced that just taking a few points that you have provided and some other points that we can spool off the internet.
Yes.
You know, adds that to the model, its model build itself.
Yeah, a data-rich model. A data-rich model. Yeah.
We're able to quickly take decisions to lend to you because your score says that it's safe to lend to you.
Right.
So that's something that's already in play. It's been in play for consumer banking, but it's a new terrain for SMEs because businesses are different from individuals.
Right.
You know, but the simple answer to that is that yes, it will solve that, and it's going to, the benefits will be seen incrementally.
Right.
Because the thing about an AI system, it's just like a human being. A human being is growing from adolescence, toddler, child, adolescence, and adult. AI systems also age.
Yeah.
You know, as they age, they get better with the predictions. You know, so all those benefits are available for business customers. And I assure you, it's a new day when you just walk in, you give your business name, and that's all we require from you. We can lend to you on the spot.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for your contribution. This has been a really interesting conversation. Your insights are great. So we just want to do quick one-liners from everybody. Just to close, Desola, any last thoughts? We can't hear you, dear.
No, so I was just saying that, yes, thank you very much. This has been a very interesting discussion, and the possibilities are endless, and I'm excited to see what is happening, how we continue to grow, especially in West Africa, how we continue to get more people to be financially included using the various digital strategies. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Francis.
Sure thing. So the bottom line, to improve customer experience, think about being omni-channel. Not it's a mandate and not a luxury anymore. And make it as simple as possible and as much accessible as possible to improve customer experience in the financial space. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Gerald?
Thank you, Atlee. I think my last word would be whatever we're doing in the digital space, it has to be sustainable, both for business and for the customers. Thank you.
Thank you. And then, sorry, Jean in DRC.
Thank you. I think my last word would be around, the strategy to enhance our customer experience, using all those digital platform, digital financial services, mobile financial services. In Congo, we are actually having one of the lowest financial inclusion rate, which is less than 20%.
Right.
So, I mean, we are looking forward to learn from what is happening from different markets and understand some of the strategy that has been implemented, some of the product that has been implemented, and see how we can customize that based on DRC reality to really make sure that we can, increase financial inclusion rate in this country.
Very honorable task, absolutely. Thank you very much. Peter and Dennis, I believe we still have, right? Peter?
Right, so yeah, my word will be Providing sustainable digital platforms is important to think the customer first, the experience, the customer's context, the environment, and also the backbone engineering. And that's very critical. All right.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And Dennis?
Okay, so I really got excited with question 6, and I'd like to speak about the future. So, so and I don't want to say bank customers, because in the future there are really no banks in the current context. It's so payments will be conversational, just as we've been speaking. So I really liked what Peter said. We'll build and with new technologies like quantum computing, you will have real life human interactions, human responses, because that's what it is at the end of the day. The woman in the village is comfortable just speaking.
Right.
A transaction happens and she's sure that it's happening in a secured manner. If it fails, it talks back to her. And then, so that's the future that we will jointly build together. So it's not just us on the bank/technology side, but engaging the users as well. Thank you.
Right.
This is my last words. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody on the panel, for the very interesting and informative discussion. And I'm going to give it back to you, Faid, and greetings from Abu Dhabi, the UAE.
Thank you. Thank you, Althea. Thank you very much, panel. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we begin the next session, and this is brought to you by No B4